working with some colleagues, we came up with an idea, which I'll tell you about. And this is an idea which is somewhat grandiosely called the Oregon Digital Safety Net. It really is a solution to a particular problem that we think exists, and we think has been sort of an underappreciated problem. So I'll describe the problem and I'll describe the solution that we're working on. And what we're at this point is we worked on describing the solution and the problem for about a year, and we've gotten a lot of positive feedback. Right now we're looking for funding to conduct a pilot, which we would probably do in Lane County. So again, it's the Oregon Digital Safety Net, and I think it's pretty obvious that people think that digital communication is a lifeline, that people need to be able to communicate with each other. And in particular, what we are looking at is what we're calling the right to be reached. In other words, that this isn't about having a phone. This is about people being able to be reached. So today, marginalized populations in Oregon often have mobile phones. But the people in these populations rarely have the same phone number for long periods of time. So you and I, if our phone is stolen or lost, or the phone we're using, runs out of its contract or whatever, we're generally able to sort of roll over that phone number to another phone. But that's generally not true for people in these marginalized populations. So they don't have the same phone number over a long period of time. Often, they don't have a stable physical address. And the result of this is that for many people, they almost become invisible. They're not reachable. Employers, landlords, doctors, courts, benefits organizations, friends and relatives often can't reliably reach them. So this is the problem that we're focusing on. It's a sort of a lack of continuous communication capability. And what the Digital Safety Net wants to do is provide people with long-lasting communications numbers, addresses that will work even if the devices and physical devices they're using and the physical addresses they're using change. And we're calling these numbers and addresses evergreen. So you would have an evergreen phone number, an evergreen post office box number, an evergreen email address that would stick with you even as whatever you're using by the way of a device and an actual place to live changes. And what would this enable? So a transient worker could receive a job offer, even if the mobile phone he'd been using at the time he applied for the job had been stolen. An addict seeking treatment in a program could receive notice that a spot had opened up, even if she no longer had the mobile phone she was using when she applied for the program. A homeless father could receive a subsidized housing authorization letter, even if the address he was living at before isn't valid anymore. One use case that I found particularly compelling was you think about a young mother coming out of prison who's trying to regain custody of her children who've gone into foster care of some sort and had applied through a court program to get custody, is waiting for a letter from the court granting this. But, maybe she's been staying with her sister or something like that and has gotten kicked out of her sister's apartment or something, and waiting for this letter. How does she get the letter? These are all sort of use cases. You look at it from the point of view of an institution, a community health program can find the patients they're trying to provide continuing care to. You know, this has been a real point of pain. I've talked to a number of social workers in the hospital to talk about how difficult it is to try to find patients that they're trying to provide ongoing care to. You know, a workforce organization such as yours can reach targeted individuals to provide the benefits that they have, that they're trying to reach the individual. But those individuals, they have changed the phone that they're using. A homeless service agency can communicate with clients to explain about critical changes in community housing policy. A home health care organization can reach hourly workers to offer new employment opportunities. An emergency government aid program can reach targeted individuals to provide cash assistance by making payments into a digital account. So this is also part of the vision. So I'm just going to do one more slide, and then we have more slides, but I'm not going to go into them. I'll stop for questions. So the vision of our DSM is not to build out anything big. There are existing digital assets that we're talking about packaging what exists and basically making it available to marginalized communities. So taking a long-lasting mobile phone number that rings on whatever phone you are using. This is basically by taking something like Google Voice and making it more widely available to marginalized populations. A long-lasting email address. A lot of people already have that, but the truth is email is not really the most important communication device anymore. So that's not that important. A digital vault to store messages and documents. And then, and I think this is really important, a long-lasting and evergreen post office box number that is tied to a first-class mail scanning service, where the images of the first-class mail are scanned and put into your digital vault, and a long-lasting digital bank account for the receipt of payments. So those are the core components of this evergreen communication. Oh, I said this was the last slide, because actually one more, I'm sorry. And that is to say that part of the vision is that these evergreen communications components are delivered to people through the service agencies that they deal with today. So Oregon has hundreds of service agencies, and we use that term very broadly to include organizations, public and private, large and small, that serve the needs of these marginalized populations. And the vision is that ORDSM would build a very small, lightweight enrollment service that would allow agencies to easily enroll clients in evergreen communications and integrate this into their own agency operation. So I'm going to stop the sharing now. And like I said, tons more slides, tons more information. I'm going to give Jan some information after this to contribute to. But what I really like to do is open it up now for two things. One, I'd really like to know whether there's any reaction to the underlying problem. Do you have any reactions to, is this really a problem among the communities, particularly the workers that you all are serving the needs of? Does it ring true at all for populations that you're dealing with? And then any questions or reactions at all to the solution and the idea?
What do you guys think? Can you think of different test cases where you wish you had this type of tool in the field? I'm seeing a lot of nodding heads. Does anyone want to share a story or a case scenario?
I was gonna say, I think I do have one. I have a homeless youth who we signed up for all of the services but because she's always moving around, she doesn't have a stable address. And so they know that I am her caseworker, so they drop them off to me and I look for her. But she's got a HUD acceptance letter and OHP that is sitting there. And
Oh,
so if she was able to find it, on her own where she has access to it, I don't, it, I don't think she would be missing these opportunities that are there for her.
And does she have a phone?
She does, but her phone number always changes depending on what text app now she uses, or yeah, it's always changing.
mhm.
I used to work, I don't have any current people I'm working with in this that kind of fall into a category like this, but in the past I worked with teen parents for several years, and this was every situation you described, it seemed like they were in. And I'd go one day to meet them somewhere at a house, and they had moved to maybe from Redmond to Madras, or their phone numbers change. So mail gets lost. They're supposed to follow up on doctor's appointments. They're supposed to follow up with court appearances. It was a lot. So I can see that being very beneficial as those, in transitional situations like that and instability. So I appreciate it.
But maybe thank you. Maybe if the workers that you're dealing with are more email centric, and that email is more. Most people have a more long lasting email address already, right? Email is less broken, right? If you're using email, you have a Gmail address and it doesn't change, right? So that works better right now, right?
I don't know. I mean, other people could maybe speak to it, but I think working with the youth, at least, I didn't get a hold of them very easily with email. It was by text. So I'm not sure. I communicate with my current clients very well by email, but I'm not sure they are in a different population, I would say. So I'm not sure what other workers think about how well they can communicate via email.
Youth are very not email centric, so pretty much I think that's the case for adults probably, but with youth, that I mean, they're all over the place.
Well, I'm curious, most of you, what I was hearing when you introduced yourself, most of you are working with workers, right? You're trying to help people get jobs. Yeah, a lot of you are working with adults. Yeah, and those of you working with adults, I think mostly using email as the means of.
Yeah, I know everyone's kind of doing this. I think it depends on the population. Some rural areas and the Latino community, not necessarily as in touch or with email, at least in my experience and my outreach. I don't know if anyone else here has better input to provide.
Well, even if they have email, they have to have access to a computer or a phone to get to it. So I think it's depending on the customer a lot of times, but there still could be an access problem.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I'm pushing it, by the way, we are not trying to solve the access problem. I recognize that exists. There's a lot of other very good initiatives that are aimed at access, and that's not what we're at. I'm trying to make sure that we're not trying to figure this out. I don't want to go after a solution if it's already been solved. I mean, if email is already doing the job, then we don't sort of need the solution I'm talking about. But I do think, especially with young people, that what you have said is true, that they're just not using email. And
I guess I meant partly too, is that even if they do have an email address, if they can't access a computer, having a phone gives them still that ability
Yeah.
to link, usually a smartphone. So yeah.
So, okay. Any reaction to the mail scanning thing, if that would be useful for physical mail?
I think that could, yeah, be a game changer, like you mentioned. I know in our conversation we had before this meeting a few days back, Carol had given the case example of how if let's say you're running behind on credit, on a credit card bill or what have you, they can send out a certified letter. And then that's their only obligation before they just jump up all your rates and, basically put you into a scenario that's almost impossible to come out of. And their whole due diligence to reach you is a letter, and then that's it. And you don't even know that it's happening. And so that's just one case. And of course, the courts in our institutions are very much still tied to mail. And I've actually used a mail service like what she's describing when I used to live abroad. And of course, very different case scenario, but I can attest to how efficient it is and how when the letter comes into that prescribed address, they just scan both sides, put it in an app, and the user is notified via the app that they have mail, and they can look and they can save the letter or they can forward it to a new address. So if you need that physical letter, you can forward it, or you can tell them it's spam and they'll shred it. So it's a pretty cool resource.
Yeah. And it's actually the credit card scenario you mentioned is one that there's even more extreme thing. Is a lot of people run into trouble with any bill that is forwarded to a debt collection company. And the debt collection companies, a lot of people I think don't understand this. Their business model depends on people not paying their bills. Because if they don't pay, they get to escalate what's due and such not. And all they have to do is send a letter in order to get the right to escalate the fees and such not. So it's a pretty despicable business model, and it all depends on the U.S. mail. And so having people be able to get digital copies of these letters and know that they need to take an action or solve something would be important. So, well, anyhow, thank you very much for your time and listening to this. I'm going to send Shannon some more information, and it'll include my email address, and so which is the best way to reach me.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any last questions for Carol before she bounces? All right, Carol, thank you so much for joining us.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Right. Sorry, guys, that audio wasn't the best. Like Teresa, I believe you're probably right. I think the microphone was somewhere on the other side of the room. Did you guys get to hear much of that, or did you just read the slides? Yeah, it was a little hard.
It was a little hard.
I was
to
reading.
understand.
Yeah. Yeah, well, basically, I think you tracked most of the problem. I mean, her slides were pretty well put, that she's trying to solve through the digital safety net. She has, this program has been placed under the umbrella of the Tech Association of Oregon. So that way this nonprofit can feed into, they can apply for grants and programs and funding to try to do this pilot. They're going to integrate, they have a large, I think it's St. Vincent's that they were talking to, piloting through, and then the service providers in Lane County, I think is who they're going to try to pilot this program from. And so I think she's just waiting for a little bit more funding before they can get the engine revving to try this out. But I do think that it is an explored challenge. We haven't really seen a lot of resources coming in directly to combat this issue. And like she said, a lot of the off-the-shelf products can fix a lot of these solutions. The Google Voice, I've used that for businesses in the past if I wanted a special voicemail or, to know if it's a business call or personal call, and you can forward that to any number. So whatever phones as you bounce, you can just forward, from your Google Voice. And so that's a pretty simple fix, but those service providers could be the ones setting up the technology for the different people so that if they don't know how to navigate that, they would have that, taken care of for them. And it still integrates the same challenges with the digital divide. Do they have a phone? Do they have cellular service where they live? I mean, those problems obviously still exist, but I think the mail and then the phone being like the physical mail and the phone, to me, from my seat, I think those would be challenges we just really haven't seen solutions for. What do you guys think would be the most valuable parts of that type of solution? Gloria, what do you think? You've been quiet. I know you're going to talk a lot next, but what are your
I
thoughts?
was just thinking about the mail component, just because I was thinking in my head about situations and different clients that I've worked with where that's definitely been very similar to what Ashley was mentioning with young adults, and waiting for things in the mail that they haven't been able to get access to. So I think all of it is huge and beneficial, but just kind of in my head I was thinking about a few different clients that I've had where that's really there's been some unfortunate kind of like barriers that they've had to, and hoops that they've had to jump through to really get what they need. And so that this service would be a huge help in kind of just eliminating some of that.
Yeah. Do you think it's something we could look at right now in our current service delivery by adding like a Google Voice, a part in our steps? Like, okay, best communication practices, text or voice. Okay. Does your phone number change frequently? If so, do you not want that to happen? And then from there, if they say, yeah, no, I don't want it to change, there literally is an off-the-shelf free product that we could integrate into our services. We could talk about doing that, is that something? Yeah.
I think that would be really impactful. If there was some way that we could like gauge interest and just kind of inform people of how that could work for them.
Yeah.
I think that would be huge.
Okay, we'll follow up about that because we could just teach everyone that's involved, with this type of service to know how to set up Google Voice, or at least how to, how to teach that. And then that could definitely be part of like, your intake, right? As in the services. So that'd be cool. Okay, cool. Any other comments, questions, blind spots? Go ahead.
I was going to say,
it would be interesting to get the perspective of those that work with TANF and DHS customers and clients, because I sit with Ryan and his whole caseload is DHS TANF clients. So I can see this was something I saw when I worked with him, and I'm sure he would have some thoughts around it. And it would be part of his conversation when he's working with an individual. So it'd be interesting to get his feedback.
Yeah, definitely. Good point.
Hey, Shannon, Joe here.
Hi, Joe.
Hey. So you mentioned Google Voice. Yeah, I've been using that platform for about 12 years, and it would check off a lot of boxes as far as, folks having access to a consistent communication. I mean, there's several layers there, right? You got text, email, access to Google Docs. One of the biggest benefits for me, and of course, I don't use it for OED business. Let's just make that explicitly clear. My eyebrows go up. But in my personal life, what's great about it is that you can use a keyboard to text. I know with what I do in business services, having which we don't, but if I did, it would be awesome, because there is a whole slice that we're missing as far as our workforce. And email is not cutting it. I'm here to tell you, even phone calls, depending on the sector you're dealing with or the particular industry. When you mentioned Google Voice, I've been thinking that for some time. I wish we had a chat feature, even attached to inside iMatch Skills, for example. You know, that would be so awesome. I know there's a lot of talk of it going away and that sort of thing, but I don't know, we're missing the boat on a certain level.
Yeah.
In my lens, what I do.
I love typing text. Personally, I use the, Mac stuff. And so I have iMessage on my computer. So I text my friends because I can type faster. And so if they're on an Android, I don't talk to them as much. I'm not going to lie. So I'm sorry, you guys. But I do see the value in adding more tools to reach people who don't want to be reached by email. Maybe they might have the ability to use email, but they're like, oh, I don't use email, right? In my last role with Business Oregon, I did a statewide assessment, and a ton of the business owners and the people serving them said they don't use email. And when I talked to different cultural support organizations, they said we could have a grant ready for a business, and we email them and saying, hey, we have money for you. They won't respond. They say we have to get them on the phone, and it's usually by text. So what you're saying is what I've been seeing across the state. That's not just in the EC Works region. That was a statewide assessment. And in rural area, that's why I said in rural and Latinx or Latinos, those were the two groups that said it the most to me. It was like a 90%. I didn't offer it up, and it came to me, so it's definitely something we're seeing, and part of the institutional barriers to communications. If we're not communicating with different groups in the way they want to be communicated with, then that tree of resources, it doesn't have enough limbs to get to all the different people that we're serving. So finding new resources like this, like the digital safety net, like Google Voice. There's another one that I like called Viber, VIBER. It's free. It's a text messaging platform. I'll drop it in the chat. The thing I love about this is you can create as many group texts as you want. And what's unique is the person receiving the information can select the language they want to receive it in. It will automatically translate. Now, I'm sure it's an AI translation. It's not perfect, but it's much better than, nothing. And for the person to really be able to receive it how they want, and that's over 150 languages, I think, is on that. That's a pretty cool tool. And if you're receiving text, phone numbers on intake forms at these skilled trades fairs or these, depending on what angle we're looking at, we have a lot of different services. We provide youth services, and saying, hey, what are your interests? And then holding those groups. Then when those opportunities come up, you can blast those groups. And so it's kind of a cool thing to do. And in addition to the Google Voice, we have WhatsApp. That's a text message number that won't change. There's all sorts of resources out there. So we can certainly duct tape some things, before there is one solution that can do everything. Kara, I don't want to read. Can you just tell me?
Well, I didn't want to interrupt, but
No, thank you.
down here we use Ring Central, and off of Ring Central, it's through our computer as well and downloaded, but we can fax, text. I FaceTime my kids. We do everything through Ring Central. It's not the best though, so depending on where you're at, it sounds like we're in a fishbowl and end up using our personal cell phone numbers, but through business partners, we just text them. A lot of them don't want a phone call. They don't have time for it. So that's what we use, but it's through KCC. So
Gotcha. Okay. Are you doing a lot of text outreach right now?
my kids don't call or email. It's text. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless it's important and they need to get yelled at, then I say, call me now. I'm just playing. I don't yell.
You're like, I can be just as scary without yelling. All right. Any other comments on this topic before we transition to the Bethlehem Inn project?
In the north, we used text now before all the advisors had cell phones, because you could still use your personal phone, but they wouldn't have your personal phone number, and it comes through like a text. So and it's free. It's a free app on your phone. They could actually call you through it as well, but they would not have your actual cell phone number.
Cool. Were you gonna say something, Forrest?
Well, I was just going to bring awareness to a lot of these great alternative communication methods that we can have on our phone. Actually, me personally, with my work phone, because of, I don't know, security reasons or whatever, I can't download anything. Like it has to go through other channels and we have to get. So I don't know if anybody else is experiencing that same. It's very limiting. We have all these tools that we could be using, but like WhatsApp, for example, like if I wanted to download that, I don't think I could. don't think I can download anything on my work phone.
Yeah. That's right.
Well, and that's due to like OED security policy, right?
Yeah, it's a
Protocol.
firewall. Yeah, I had that with Business Oregon.
It's good
Yeah.
to bring awareness though that
Yeah, no, that is a good point. Thank you for calling that out.
yeah, if we can just advocate for like, hey, with all these other tools are available to us, let's
Mhm.
just make sure we can actually use them and don't have to go through extra channels. And one
Yeah.
thing I'd bring up at work too, I do end up assuming that they have access to email, and I'm reminding myself like ask the job seeker, have that conversation with them, like what methods of communication work for you, because this is important and I need to be able to reach you later.
Yeah.
Like even submitting a resume to an employer for some job seekers, it's like, like I can tell they're really interested in the job and they're conveying to me like, okay, like I'll go down to the library later and like shoot you the update to the resume. I'm like, oh, okay, I don't want to inconvenience you at that level. Like just send me what you got now. And certainly reminding folks, another security thing with our work email, like we're talking about junk. I call my junk folder my important folder. Seriously, it's like any important communication that comes from anybody not already in my network goes straight to junk. So there's just some awareness of these like security reasons that are probably set in for a good purpose, but at some point do limit us in our ability to do our job to our best ability. So I think it's just a good conversation to make sure our leadership is aware of.
Right. Okay. Well, it's about that time, Gloria. You are front and center. You're gonna. So Gloria's gonna share with us an update, maybe an overview of the work being done, but then an update also on the Bethlehem work. So it's all yours, Gloria.
Cool. Awesome. I will share my screen. All right. Awesome. Cool. So I'm going to be going over this really nifty infographic that my coworker Matthew actually created for our Ready to Hire Accelerator program, which is a program that he and I have been facilitating for the last few months in partnership with Bethlehem Inn. Again, it's called the Ready to Hire Accelerator program. I'm going to give an overview, and then like Shannon said, there's some data, some updated data that's in it, as well as some other program updates towards the end that I'll go over. So it is in reference to the Ready to Hire training manual. So a lot of what we've done in this program has been pulled from the Ready to Hire training booklet that I think a lot of us have seen. And so our goal has been to provide career guidance, mentorship, and tailored one-on-one assistance. So right now, the way that we've started the program and the way it's set up right now is that we are providing 2-day workshops once a month, as well as one-on-one support and assistance for Bethlehem Inn residents. And so this program is specifically for Bethlehem Inn residents as they get referred into the program. The workshops we have planned them out to where they cover different topics. So we do resumes, cover letters, we talk about soft skills and hard skills, we do some interview prep. Sometimes we will weave in some tech, like a tech part of the workshop as well, that's primarily Microsoft Word and just the platform that we want to use for people to get familiar in creating their resume. And then in between those workshops, as people get referred, we do a lot of this work as well, one-on-one. We also provide direct access to employers, business services, and job leads. So within our workshops, there's a good chunk of it that is a lot of like interactive teaching. And we do a lot of, activities and different things. And then we have usually like we call it an open lab time where people can finish up their resume or apply to jobs. We've typically had Joe at the WorkSource who's come in and been awesome in talking about business services and, just kind of his connection with local employers and just offering that up as an additional resource for folks. Up until now, we've had 3 cohorts that we've done. And by cohorts, I just mean like workshop series. And all of those have taken place at the Bend WorkSource. So right now it's, in a classroom setting where people have access to computers. We typically use our mobile lab where each individual has a laptop where they're able to work on things individually while we're teaching, as well as after during the open lab time. But the hope is that in the future, we will be implementing this program at Bethlehem Inn and having a physical presence there that is consistent. We haven't done that yet, and we haven't decided on as far as how often that will be. But the goal is that we will be there in person to be able to offer these services and for us to create a more consistent presence there. So just going down a little bit here, as far as the resident employment path. So something that I really want to kind of bring attention to, when we first started this program, we knew we had to be aware of, be aware and informed and educated about the unique needs and the barriers that people are facing, residents are facing when they get referred to this program. And that's been a huge part in how we plan our workshops and how that impacts the way we coach individuals. They are coming, people are getting referred into this program and they're already carrying a lot. And so we are another entity that is trying in their world that is trying to support, but we really can't do that unless we have a good, informed, like deep understanding about what their barriers are. And so that's something that Matthew and I are constantly trying to inform ourselves on and be aware. And that's a lot of it comes with being aware about what other community resources there are out there that could help us if what they're facing is outside of our scope of work. And that is huge because if we really prioritize that, because if we don't, I don't think we would be successful with folks in the program. So that's just something that I bring up because there's a lot of conversation about that with Matthew and I as we plan each workshop series. As far as the actual referral process, we rely heavily on Bethlehem Inn to get referrals. And so what that looks like is we've talked extensively with their staff. We've created flyers that they are able to distribute. They have posted in their building. And then we also have an intake sheet that's pretty simple. It's really just a one-pager that allows a resident to put just kind of their basic information, contact info. We have some questions on there that help us determine how to have an initial conversation. So whether or not they have a resume, if there's a certain line of work that they're looking to get into, just very basic stuff that can initiate an initial conversation. And so Bethlehem Inn staff will use that on their own intake to determine or to have someone fill out. And they are really kind of tasked with identifying who would be a good fit. So I think everyone can benefit from this program, but I think they are also trying to identify folks who are motivated to come to the workshops and show up. And so once we receive an intake sheet from the staff that's when Matthew and I will do an outreach and we'll sort of get to learn more about their goals. This is usually where we kind of learn about any potential barriers and just kind of get a little bit more insight to where they're coming from. And then as far as just kind of what referrals have looked like over the last few months since we started, it's been fairly consistent with a little bit of a dip over the summer. And I think that's reflective of different things. I think there's, you know, as far as how busy it can get at Bethlehem Inn and kind of that ebb and flow of referrals in that regard. We saw a spike this month, just we got more referrals this month. And Matthew and I think we felt strongly about, we actually implemented a new, like, I guess a new thing to help with referrals where we've been holding, we did a couple of times, we did like on-site little table info events at Bethlehem Inn, where we just kind of like set up a table outside the front entrance. And we had all of our information about the program. We were able to really connect with people in person. The staff were able to see us there also. And just kind of, I think that also might have served as a little reminder if they were having someone in mind that they haven't yet referred. So I think all around that was a really great thing. We did that twice in the month of August. And then when we held our workshops, we had more referrals. So that's something new that I think we're going to continue to do to help with that. The staff are also the staff at Bethlehem Inn are being really diligent as well with like emailing out our flyer every couple of weeks just to, you know, kind of serve again as a reminder of the program and the services that we offer. This is just a little snapshot as far as, so again, we do both the courses and individual work. So a lot of our data that I'll kind of go into as we go through is reflective, I think, of definitely both. So there are individuals who we've helped one-on-one but never attended our workshops. And that really just depends on what people need. I think some people thrive in a group setting and some people get more out of what we're offering one-on-one. So the goal is for both paths to help all participants become ready to hire, or if underemployed, assist in finding a better paying job. So we have this intent for them to walk away with a resume and or cover letter in hand, and then a clear direction of where they want to apply. I'll talk about this a little more as we go through, but I think we've found that for everyone so far, we've helped almost every individual who's engaged with us with their resume, whether or not that's been starting one from scratch or like polishing up, helping to update an already existing one. But I think we've also learned that there are a lot of people who are not ready to dive into the resume because there's some other things that we need to work on career exploration wise before we hit that resume. So yeah, so I think so far we've touched on that with every individual, but we've got some other things that we're going to probably incorporate into the program to help kind of inform how we do the resume. So following up, we have kind of created the program with the expectation that we will always follow up, especially right after someone attends a workshop. We don't sort of say goodbye after the workshops are done. It feels very much like a closure, but it's really not. We let everybody know that we'll be checking in with them, whether or not they've been placed at a job yet. We try to follow up. We also try to kind of toe the line with not chasing people, because we do want people to kind of, you know, if they are okay without our services, that's totally fine. But we want them to know that we'd want to check in with them to see how they're doing after the courses, or even after we've worked one-on-one with them a few times. This is another little snapshot of the services that are requested. And by that, I just mean for everyone who's filled out an intake sheet that we've received, this is whether or not we've engaged with these folks. These are kind of what people are saying they want help with. So obviously resume is huge. job searching, interview prep. Most of these we already incorporate into our workshops. And then some of the other ones like tech, we will incorporate as needed. So if we have a group where, you know, for one of the workshops, like no one was interested in getting any sort of tech support, we won't really plan for that. But we may plan for it one-on-one with somebody if it comes up later. So we really try to tailor the workshops based on the intake, you know, the group that we're, you know, that's being referred for that upcoming workshop. Another snapshot here as far as the sector interest, again, anyone whose intake sheet we've received, if they've specified a specific sector that they're interested in working in. So retail, I think luckily all of these, there are many opportunities out there right now in all of these sectors. And so whether or not people have been placed in jobs that they've said they've been interested in, that's a different data point, but this is what people's initial interest is when we first reach out to them or engage with them. This is kind of another kind of a miscellaneous snapshot of things. It's Matthew kind of titled this as the 4th month results. So overall, I'm not going to go through all of them, but just to highlight some big ones. So we've received 31 referrals total so far. So that's everyone who we've received an intake sheet from Bethlehem Inn staff. We've done 15 one-on-one support, so 15 individuals where we've helped them to some extent individually. We've had 8 students attend, so those are workshop attendees. We've created 16 resumes, and so all of this we really hope to increase with doing more on-site events. So we hope the referrals will increase. We're hoping that you know, we get more one-on-ones. I think what was interesting about the 2 little table events that we did is the first one that was earlier in the month yielded more referrals for people working one-on-one with us because the workshop was still so far out. And then the second one we did, it was like a week or a few days before our workshop, yielded more workshop attendees. So that was interesting. And I think that might inform how we plan for workshops. It could be that we do one, you know, it could be that we plan for one mid-month just because we're getting a lot of interest from those events. Okay, so this is like program updates, and these are all kind of things that we've put into place that are new or that we plan to do in the future. So we've talked about how at least twice a month we'd like to do on-site booth events to connect with clients, increase our program visibility, and just generally boost our enrollments if appropriate. And then, like I mentioned before, we're still working towards on-site cohort groups, and we hope to do that by the end of the year. That was kind of what Bethlehem Inn and we kind of discussed early on when we first started the program. So we're hoping that that can happen because I think, again, a physical presence there would be really helpful for people. And so we're also currently testing out a new resume software to make teaching the course easier. So we've really done our workshops. The first couple series that we did, we were using like different templates from, you know, from different places like Google and different things. And we found that we really kind of wanted something that would be more efficient. So there's a software that we've tried out in the last cohort that worked really well. It's kind of this software that allows you to sort of plug in information and it crafts, you know, really great verbiage about, you know, with job description. And if you have a little objective profile at the top, it kind of creates that really easily. So I think for people who kind of know what they want to do already, they've already identified a career, like a sector, and they're pretty, you know, dead set on on that, then I think this software would work really well. But for someone who's still kind of exploring what they want to do, it may not be the best fit. So we're kind of exploring it and we're testing it out. And I think we need to probably use it on a few more individuals or with a few more individuals before we really know how well it's going to work.
Can you share the name of that software, Gloria?
Yes, it's called Resume Scripter. Yeah, and they are, they've been really great in sort of chatting with us about different options and packages and different things. So I don't know if right now we're on a free trial with them for a little while. So we're hoping to get, when we do our next cohort, we can still be testing it out using the trial.
Cool, thanks.
We're also shelving our Tech 101 course and working with on a career mapping course instead. So this is kind of what I mentioned before, like tech piece. We do, I think there are already existing workshops that can support people with tech and like different platforms. So I think instead of having that in our workshop as a set piece, we felt that it would be more important to incorporate a career mapping course instead. And the reason for that is, I think I had mentioned before, like we've found that a lot of individuals are not yet ready to dive into their resume because they may not have any idea like what direction to take. And so right now we are looking at the Ready to Hire training manual to pull some pieces to do career mapping on, but there are also lots of other resources that we've come across that I think will help us craft that part of our workshop, because I think it's super important. Matthew and I have discussed, like, just time-wise, like one of us could be facilitating that, the other person could be facilitating a resume piece for the folks who are ready for that. So logistically, we just need to figure out how it can work well, given that everyone in the class might be in a different place. We have some new potential partnerships. Matthew is kind of initiating meetings and talking with Saving Grace and the new Lighthouse Navigation Center to potentially expand these services into those organizations as well. So I think we have a meeting set up already with Saving Grace, but we've really talked about how we could potentially bring this to other places as well locally. So that's something that's in the works and is coming down the pipeline, hopefully. That's all I got.
Awesome. Thank you so much. If you stop sharing your screen, we'll see all the beautiful people out there and see if you guys have any questions for Gloria. Well, I'll start us off. I was going to ask, I had written this out, if you had visited Bethlehem Inn much outside of the workshops, but it did seem like you touched on that you hadn't, it sounds like from your presentation that you haven't done much on-site work outside of it, but you have a goal to do so in the future.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we have met people at Bethlehem Inn one-on-one, because I think that's something that Bethlehem Inn is comfortable with. I think their main thing is they don't want to have too much group. So I think there was some concern about like doing group facilitation on site at the moment. Part of that was due to COVID and different things. But we have been able to meet folks at Bethlehem Inn inside their building one-on-one, especially for the initial in-person meetings that we've had. So Matthew and I have done that. We haven't done much service delivery one-on-one. It's really been like the initial in-person, like getting them registered, talking about goals.
Mm-hmm.
So like the resume work and all of the stuff that we would do with people individually or in our workshops, we've usually done at the Bend WorkSource. So it's, yeah, so there is, you're right, Shannon, there is like the goal to be able to do all of it at Bethlehem Inn. Some people can really very easily access the Bend WorkSource. So it really just depends on what works best for the participants.
Mhm.
But as far as the group workshop facilitation, we have not done that there yet.
And also like not just physical barriers, but maybe, you know, fear of the unknown. If they see, oh, Gloria and Matt, they seem friendly, you know, because you came to them, then it maybe doesn't feel quite as cumbersome to be like, oh, if I show up at that office, what, you know, are they going to judge me, you know, that kind of thing. Whereas
Yeah.
if you with their home court, you know, advantage where they're at least in a safe space, maybe, yeah, you have better conversion. I'm just curious. Do you think that the Bethlehem Inn would be open and I don't know, I'm sitting from a totally different lane, so this could be completely a bad idea. But do you think they'd be open to like hosting, you know, a lunch, and then you guys could talk about what the services you have, and then while you're feeding them, do you think that might be something they'd be open to?
Yeah, that's a really good idea. And I think Matthew and I briefly had that idea a month or two ago. But we don't want to, so we sort of decided that of all the ways that we could do physical presence right now, it would be nice to kind of start with the table events because we're outside and people could come to, so that is a really good idea that we might pitch maybe like next month or something, because I know that there's still concern about people gathering and bringing outside partners into the space
Okay.
when they still have these very strict guidelines with COVID and different things. So yeah, I think that's super cool. And with every opportunity that we get, we really try to meet people at Bethlehem Inn, as if it's going to be one-on-one, just because I think that's where, like, to your point, I think that it's just a more familiar, safe space to most individuals who are being referred. And so, yeah, I think, you know, there's one client who's just moved on from Bethlehem Inn, and his new housing happens to be very close to the WorkSource, so that works out for him. But yeah, I think for most people, we really try to use that as the first place to meet. Unless they're like, oh, I'm out and about, I can come to the WorkSource, it's fine. I should say that for our workshops that we've done so far, we've been able to provide transportation to and from Bethlehem Inn. So that's been a big thing for the participants who have attended so far.
That's very cool. That's awesome. Great work. Thank you so much. What other questions? Melody, you came off mute. Oh, and then Kara.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, when Matthew and Gloria pitched this, it's such a great concept that we wanted them to really kind of, you know, create the program, refine the program, and collect some data so that we could figure out how we scale this region-wide. So this is like a spectacular foundation for us to build on and actually move this through our whole 10 counties. So great work, Gloria.
Cool. Thank you.
Kara.
So here in Klamath, we do a lot of outreach, career fairs, and we make a presence third Thursday, Saturday market. We're out in the community, but I love the fact that you're in an area. So we're going to be meeting after this to see how we can implement it down here. So great idea.
Yeah.
We love it.
Yeah, and we are learning a lot as we go too, as far as what ways will work best to get kind of the word out. And there's always a brainstorm every single time Matthew and I meet for planning a new workshop. So yeah, that would be awesome. And I think, you know, just ideas being generated as far as what's going to work best.
Could we also reach out to you for some guidance, Gloria, in case Kara, Mackenzie, and I want to kind of, okay, awesome. Thank you.
Definitely. Yeah. And Matthew's not on this meeting today. He's out for this week, but we can definitely set something up where he's also included and we can chat.
I would love to brainstorm with you, Gloria, on like a tear sheet of like the do's and the don'ts, you know, like the things that work the best, and then things that have failed for you and why, because maybe it wouldn't fail in another region, but at least a lesson learned since you've been in this space for 3 cohorts now. Yeah,
I think that's great. There's definitely been lots of, you know, some of the stuff that I mentioned that were in the infographic were, huge lessons learned. And I think that's going to always be the case as we continue to do these. There's always going to be a way to make things better. And so, which is great, because I think it'll end up being really refined. But yeah, I think that's awesome to be able to see like do's and don'ts.
Yeah. And the don'ts, why, right? So that way we
what
can
was
all make those assessments as to, what would work in each region, each facility, and things like that, just to learn from what you guys are doing. That's awesome. Good to see some momentum. Yeah. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Sweet. Let's keep the party rolling. So, Kate James, hi. Thank you for coming out. Kate's joined our group, and I wanted to provide her an opportunity to introduce herself and kind of remind people of some of the services available through the Trade Act. And she's like, we're not stepping on Katie May's toes here. We're just having a conversation because we've got two players in the room. But yeah, Kate, go ahead and introduce yourself, provide a little bit of background, and thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you, Shannon. Thank you so much for letting me sit in, and I'm looking forward to the opportunity to meet each of you through these meetings, and hopefully in person as we're able to get out and about too. My name is Kate James. I'm an analyst with the Trade Act program, and one of the ways that I connect to the different regions statewide is through the business services teams. So I connect with the career developers, Andrea and Adalberto, and I'm trying to just attend as many of the regional business service teams meetings as I can, just to be an additional resource to you all about the Trade Act, in addition to our awesome navigators like Katie May. So I'm just one more that you can call if you have any questions about Trade Act benefits and programs. So that's a little bit about me and my role, and I'm hoping to attend as many of these meetings as I can, so I can learn too about the awesome initiatives that you guys are doing, so that I can be relaying that information to our teams as well, to see just how we can continue to offer benefits and services to our customers. So that's kind of a little bit about my role and my part here in these meetings. And if you have any questions about the Trade Act, I'm happy to answer. And yeah.
How many of you guys use the Trade Act on a regular basis, like make referrals? Can you guys show me if it, I'm just curious in this room. Does it ever happen? Is it rare? Marnie occasionally? Anyone? Not a lot?
I receive them every now and again.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just curious to feel the room, see the vibe. Are we all, actually, I can share a link. I'm sure they have their own collateral that is probably really, really helpful. But I know we just created a business services book for East Cascades Works that shares a lot of the programs that we all live and love. So I'm going to put it in the chat here. And the Trade Act is in here. In fact, so that first link is just the beginning of this. It's an interactive magazine, but it's just the beginning. And then the cool thing about this resource, and feel free to just use as much as you can. We built it to be used. But the cool thing is you can actually link to a page opened up. So in here, we do talk about WorkShare and the Trade Act. And I'm going to drop that link. It's on page 12. And so if you, and Kate and Katie May, if you and your work, if this is helpful, please use it. If not, don't tell me about it because I work real hard. But there it is in there for you. And why not? I'll share my screen so that not everyone has to go in here. So this is what we built to talk about this. And this is just an introduction. And then there's a call out to more information, the video that you guys have created, and then a link out to your page. And I'd be happy to provide a link out to either of you as well, if that's something that you would be interested in. Yeah, and I just wanted to share this resource. This came out like a week ago, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And so we talk, all of the table of contents here is hyperlinked. So if you want to go to something, you can say, oh, salary support my employer is interested in that. And that goes into here. And it's, you know, we try to use employer speak as opposed to industry speak here. And then on OTG, on the job training, salary support, incumbent worker. And then we go in through VR, OCB, Easter Seals. So we do have a lot of resources called out in this magazine. So feel free to use it as it makes sense. For all of your business team here, the SBDC, we actually have a Spanish, Carlos in the north at CGCC was able to partner with this, and he actually works in this space. He's on the team. He's on obviously the SBDC and the Capital Access team. And so he just presented his elevator speak that he gives to businesses about these programs. And so a Spanish speaker can just listen to it. It's a 2-minute pitch, and then he gives his contact information. So it's pretty cool.
That is very awesome. It is so beautiful too. It looks really, really nice.
Thank you so much. Stop us some more a little bit. So anyway, that's a resource that you guys have available to you, and please love and use it, because that's what it's for. Also, I wanted to call out, we do have a podcast. I think I mentioned this a long time ago, maybe a few months ago, and I would love any ideas of topics and guests to feature on here. I just recently had Kristen Fix yesterday, actually, on this podcast she's with the Gorge Tech Alliance and MCED, and we talked about their upcoming tech showcase, and I will actually show you that page as well, because it's actually really cool, and I want to make sure you guys all knew about it. For all of you that serve the North region, I know there's not a lot in the room right now, but we recorded this yesterday and I posted it because they have it. It's rapidly approaching. Their tech showcase is on the 28th here, and they actually were able to combine efforts with a huge drone association, and so it's going to be a very unique and big event up in the North. So I just wanted to call that out. And they also mentioned the Google Data Center grant, which is a pretty cool community grant. I welcome you guys to go here, and I'll put this link in the notes too, because there's a lot of community building opportunity through this grant. Yeah, so I just want to call out these couple of upcoming events. Anyone else have events that are coming up that the team should know about?
Just so like at least central, Marnie and I are going to be rotating up at COCC this fall, every Thursday, I believe, about 10 to 3 for students up there. So if anyone's working with individuals that are students and need connection to WorkSource services, or even if people outside the area are interested in COCC programs, you can direct them to us, and hopefully we'll be able to help found this out, and we'll tell you how it goes.
Awesome.
In the north, in Maupin, South Wasco Connect is hosting an event on September 24th. That will be job fair, plus they're having a big community celebration that day as well. So I think there's some partners going to be up there in Maupin that day as well.
Will you send me that? Do you have an email or a flyer for that?
I do, yeah.
Send it over.
Oh, yes.
I know Hard Hat in Hands is gonna do a new cohort coming up in September. I don't remember the date. I want to say mid to late. And that, for any of you that don't know, I know Gloria knows, because yeah, you've worked in the past with them. But that is a pre-apprenticeship program for the trades. The last cohort had like 8 people, right, Gloria?
Yeah, I think it was 8 or 9. Yeah, for the second one, yeah, the last one.
Wow. And they have like a guaranteed job upon graduation, right?
Yeah, they it's basically 8-week training program, both in the classroom and on the job, and then yeah, they get hired before the training even starts by the employer. And so I know that they're holding interviews. Jenny Porfilia and I will be at their interview sessions next week.
Okay.
So we'll be there, to offer support. People usually will stop by and we'll discuss how we can support them and talk about our services. But yeah, they're interviewing next week. And I think I was just trying to pull up the start date. I feel like it's September, or it's the second or third week of September.
Yeah. Okay.
I think is when they start, and then they end by November, and they have their graduation in December.
Right.
And then they're just kind of off the ground running, or, you know, we'll start working. Right?
Program. Yeah. Because not only do they not have to pay for the program, they get paid the stipend. Meta pays for that. That's their sponsor. This is in Central in Prineville. And it's at the Facebook data center, the Meta, I'm not sure what they call it now, but Fortis. Yeah. Fortis is there. So it's a pretty cool program, and I'd love to see, you know, more like it. We just have to have those champion sponsors to be able to, create that. Anything else going on? All right. Well, I will, if you can give me that presentation, Gloria, I'll include it in the sum up email, and I'm trying to get Carol's presentation as well. So I will include that and the recording of this meeting. So you guys, thanks for being here. Thanks for talking, so you don't have to listen to me the whole time. That's much better. And I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I am so looking forward to it. So until next time, thank you guys.
Thanks, Shannon. Bye.